And now, a math lesson. Let's say the Zaxby's chicken finger plate comes with 4, 5, or 6 hand-breaded fingers and 1 side of Zax sauce. Plus, you can try them with Zax sauce, honey mustard, hot honey mustard, tongue torch, teriyaki, wimpy, nuclear, barbecue ranch, sweet and spicy, insane. How many possible combinations does that make? Carry the 2 with the remainder... a lot. Zaxby's chicken finger plate. The sauceabilities are endless.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Pretty sure that promo code's still running, Nike 75, which is $75 for an annual membership to Warchant.com and a $75 e-card for Nike apparel. So use it and, give a gift or dress yourself nicely in Nike apparel. Corey Clark's here, everybody. Thank goodness. What's up, Corey?
What's up, buddy? How you doing? You doing all right? You having a good Thursday?
Yeah, man. My heater got fixed. Got fixed
Nice.
on Wednesday afternoon when I was told it would be Friday. So that was a big win. Also pulled the curtain back a little bit on my personal life. When I went home, so my biggest fear ever since this pandemic started was going home and getting my mother ill because she's in healthcare. She's a nurse.
Right.
So I go home for Thanksgiving, and I was joking with some of my friends. I'm like, I hope I can see you guys. I'm like, I hope my mom will actually let me come out and hang out with everybody because I was staying with my mom. But my mom, she's pretty laid back about it. You know, she knows I take it seriously and everything. So I go golfing with my buddy on Friday, and I'm in a golf cart with another friend, and then these 2 other friends of mine are in the other golf cart. And he knows how seriously I've been taking it, and he's not maybe as diligent as I am. And he kind of was like razzing me, but he's like, can I get a hug? Like, will you hug me actually? I'm like, whatever, don't be a jerk. So gotta give him a quick little hug. Anywho, turns out he later, I think maybe Saturday, ends up testing positive for COVID. Mm-hmm. So I was around him during golf, but we were outside. I was not in the same cart with him. I think if you added up all of we were on the tee box together, but I was still standing far away from everybody. I don't think I was within. I was not. It was not 15 minutes of contact within 6 feet of him. So anyhow, I got tested Sunday. It came back negative. I told my mom this too. I'm like, hey, Mom, I'm so sorry, but it turns out that who I went golfing with has COVID. She was cool. She went and got tested. She was negative, which was the biggest relief. I was fine Sunday. And then Wednesday I went and got followed up because they said to not get tested so quickly if you feared you. They said if you think you were around anybody during your Thanksgiving, wait until after December 1st. So I did that and got the clean bill of health so I can now challenge Ira to tennis with a clean conscience and a clean bill of health. So I'm feeling good.
Congratulations, man. That's nice. And then hopefully that vaccine will be out soon enough, and we'll all be in the Civic Center watching that Seminole basketball team come February or March.
Packing the tuck. We'll talk football, but hey, it's the defending ACC champions getting their season opening win and their season opener, 86-58 over UNF, which I think even cleared them over the threshold of the betting lines, which is really cool. I guess let's just get right to it then. I think you're going to go ahead and take the helm of president of the Scotty Barnes fan club. Talk about Scotty Barnes, if you will, Corey Clark.
Yeah, you see, if you watched it, and hopefully you guys did, he's not going to be here long. He'll be here another, 4 months, and then he's moving on to his big house and fancy cars and a lot of money. But yeah, man, you see it with him, right? Like, he didn't shoot well at all. He can't. He's not a good shooter right now. He's also a teenager. He will become a better shooter, but he does everything else at a extremely high level. You watched it. You watched how he defended. Imagine being a 6'2" point guard dealing with that. A guy that's as quick as you with those long arms, going everywhere you go. He can switch 1 through 5 on defense. He can play every position. I don't know if he had any steals. He might have had 1, but he was close to getting about 8. Had 6 rebounds and 6 assists. I think he's a guy that could legitimately have a triple-double at some point this year, maybe a couple. He is not going to be a big-time scorer. That's not his role. He'll score more than 8. Like, even in that game, he probably should have had 15 if he could have just made layups and free throws. But he is going to be a guy that is going to be a bear for teams to deal with, because who do you guard him with? If he's Florida State's point guard, do you put your point guard on him? Because if you do, he's just going to go post up and he'll be at the rim. And if you don't put your point guard on him, if you put a power forward on him who's 6'9", he's going to go right by him. He is a matchup nightmare. You can see the IQ he has. But, that's the thing that I think they've all talked about. It's just the way he plays. It just seems to come naturally to him. He is a naturally gifted basketball player and can do a lot of things. Shooting isn't probably going to be one of them, which is a bummer. It'd be awesome if he could shoot 40% from 3 and 80% from the line, but that's not going to happen. But he's going to do everything else at a very high level. He's good.
I really like Sardar Calhoun. I think he just
he's bouncy, man, right? Like,
man.
He has some athleticism that it's unbridled right now. Like, he'd get the ball and he'd go, and he's just one big fast twitch. Like, and he knocked down a couple threes. You can tell he's got a nice shot, and he's going to be a big time player for them too, probably later in the year. But you never know. I mean, I don't know where he comes on in the rotation. He might be the 7th man, 6th or 7th man. But yeah, man, I liked him a lot too. He's explosive.
Yeah, I just think he looked very athletic. Like, he played with a certain level of aggression that I thought was very appealing. I think let's get to MJ Walker too. Then he was had the game high 17 points. I don't know. He seems to have developed kind of this thing where either I'm going to shoot 3-pointers or I'm going to get it to the rim and try to get fouled. Or has he always done that? That's what I noticed on Wednesday night, and I liked it. I was a big fan of it.
Yeah, no, that's his guy. That's kind of his game, and it was last year too. I mean, he knocked down a ton of huge 3-pointers for them, really his whole career, but last year in particular. And he became better in the paint. He became better at the rim, and I think he saw a little bit more of that. Now, look, it's a whole different animal when they play again, which is next Wednesday against Indiana, who thumped. Who they thumped? Stanford, somebody that one of their kids had 31. But yeah, it's gonna be a real steep climb in competition level the next game. But yeah, man, MJ keeps taking those steps. We'll see what the season turns out to be. But if he can take as equally a big step from his junior to senior year as he did from his sophomore to junior year, he should be one of the best players in the conference. I mean, he scored 17 points on 8 shots. He's not going to be a guy that averages 20 a game, because that's not happening for this team. But defensively, he's good. He's always good. And then he's also, I think, your most consistent outside shooter, a guy you feel the best about shooting threes. And yeah, man, he attacked the rim. It's different when you're playing the big boys like Indiana, and then Georgia Tech, Clemson, Florida after that. I mean, it gets real quick. But that guy has an ability to get to the lane, and he's become a lot better about finishing. So hopefully that continues. Overall, man, I just thought it was a solid performance. I thought the defense, there were some hiccups, obviously. He played 12 guys. He literally, I think, put 12 guys on the court within the first 5 minutes of the game. Like, legitimately, subbed out a whole 5 and then brought in 2 more guys. And I think all 12 ended up scoring at least 1 basket. Correct. But that's, he's not going to play 12 the whole season. I think he'll end up settling on 9 or 10, but they're going to play a lot. And so he wanted to get those guys a lot of work. That's why there are going to be some hiccups. Like, if you'd have played Barnes, Walker, Osborne, Polite, Balsa, and then maybe a couple other guys off the bench, if you'd had a 7-man rotation, I think it wouldn't have been as choppy. But that's not what Leonard's trying to do. He knows he's going to win with depth, and he hasn't had exhibition games. So he treated that one like an exhibition game, to the point where I think it was an 11-point game in the second half, and he didn't have a ton of starters in there. They had cut it to 11 because North Florida just all of a sudden couldn't miss threes. They hit 8 of 9 at one point to cut it to 11. And he didn't panic. He's like, look, we're going to work through this. These guys need reps. They need game experience. And I'm treating this almost like an exhibition game. And it worked out. They went on a 16-0 run to close it out.
And last thing, I just wanted to give a shout out to Raekwon Gray. I think he might be kind of the linchpin of things. We always talk about MJ. We were kind of always watching and waiting and hoping for MJ to make those big strides. If Raekwon can make a jump, if Raekwon can make a nice stride, that's a really sort of an intriguing piece, I think, that can give this team a lot more sort of firepower, at least some more punch. He looked good, man. I thought he looked really good too.
Yeah, and he seems a little more fit. Not quite the body that he had last year, and I mean that in a positive way. But he's a guy he's a basketball player. Like, he's going to do some things that make you throw your hands up occasionally. But the stat they showed on the broadcast, like, he was top 5 in 4 different categories for Florida State: steals, block shots, rebounds, and points last year. He does everything pretty well. He's not a great shooter, but he can shoot. He's a pretty good free throw shooter. He's pretty good getting to the basket. He's a good defender. He can guard multiple positions. He's a pretty good rebounder. He's a very good passer for his size. All these things, and he's just getting older and more experienced. Yeah, he's a linchpin, man. I think him and Walker Walker, Polite, and Osborne give you the veteran leadership, the stability, and then you sprinkle in, I think, 2 NBA guys in Barnes and Calhoun who are just new to it, and that's the formula you have. You hope those guys can be the stabilizing force while those 2 guys learn as they go. But yeah, man, it looks like it'll be a typical Florida State team. They of course are going to miss the guys they lost, but it's going to be a work in progress, as Leonard Hamilton likes to say. They're not ready to take any bows. It's one game. They're 1-0, man. They're not ready to take any bows. But hey, man, last season they started 0-1, so now they're already ahead of last season's pace. That's right.
And as Corey said, they return to action next Wednesday, December 9th, back home, Indiana, ACC Big Ten Challenge, 9:15. It's going to be a late one.
Is it really 9:15? Holy moly.
Yeah.
Going to be press conferences at midnight. And we got to do a shout out to the Barnes. I haven't seen SportsCenter. I assume that was a top 10 play. But, I mean, imagine it. How good do you have to be in your first game? In a competitive game, that's an 11-point game right there. Where in the second half, where you're getting chased down by a smaller guy and you let him go by, put the ball behind your back and dunk it on his head. That's not something that's normal, right? In your first college game.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. It's too bad the crowd couldn't have been there. I mean, I get it. We just had that start of the show. I get why there wasn't a big crowd there, but it's too bad, for all of us, obviously, that there weren't 12,000 people in that place, or 8,000. Let's be realistic. It was North Florida. Because that place would have gone nuts on that play.
Confessional time, or maybe it's testimonial time. Anyhow, for a long time, I've been playing fantasy football, all the way back since 2002. So if you do the math, you'd say that's 18 years. But it's been 17 because this year, for the first time ever, I decided not to play fantasy football because I haven't won since 2002, and I'm sick of giving my friends who make more money than me $100 every year when I lose in our fantasy football league. I've decided to shift that $100 to doing parlays on Saturdays with college football, and now my bookie has helped out with their Warchant promo. If you use the promo code Warchant, you get your first deposit match halfway up to $1,000, which is pretty sweet. Again, the promo code is Warchant. If you go to my bookie and see other promo codes, you might get the same sort of kickback, but you know what? We don't get credit for it, and at the end of the day, give your boys some credit. Check out my bookie if you like betting on sports games. And hey, they got table games and casino stuff as well. By the way, if you didn't like the fact that we opened the show with 12 minutes of basketball talk, well, actually probably like 9 minutes of basketball talk because I had nonsense at the beginning. Always could check the show notes in the item description of the podcast, and you can pick where you want to go in the show. So,
I mean, who would be listening to this show? Folks, give us a break. We got to talk about a win. You know what I mean? We get to talk about a good program. I know it was only 9 minutes, but who would be like, let's get back to that football team? We're getting there. Trust me, I get it. But give us just a respite for 9 minutes to talk about a program that wins a lot of things and has a lot of really good players and a culture that you're proud of. Let's savor that for another 9 or 10 seconds before we then go on to, well, no, actually there was some good news with football, right? With Norvell talking about LaDamian Webb.
Yeah. So he is coming back after all. Well, has every intention, according to Mike Norvell said. He'll be back in January.
Apparently
had some family matters.
So. Yeah, is that what it was? He said something about, I didn't know if he had family moving in with him or there was something going on with his family. But it wasn't quite clear why he opted out. But I guess it was opting out for COVID reasons. Is that what you took from it?
He's got some little ones to take care of. Like, he didn't say his kids.
Right.
But yeah, it did sound like a opt out because of health concerns and just the craziness of everything. But Norvell did say they he had conversations with him and expects him to be back in January.
Now, he said he had a good talk with him on Sunday, and then I think he followed that up and said I had a good talk with him on Monday.
Yeah.
So to me, that means maybe everything wasn't clear and decided on Sunday. So I feel like this is something to still watch. Maybe, but it's certainly better than the alternative of Norvell saying we wish him well, but he's moving on.
Yeah, I'll get to Jaden real quick, but I just do wonder. I don't know, maybe it's cynical Slon, skeptical Slon, whatever you want to call me. I just do wonder, if Webb does go home for like a month and decides, like, man, I don't want to leave this for whatever reason. There's nothing obligating him to return to Florida State. So, but I guess, if to your point, if Norvell seemed to like the mood of the conversation, the tone of the conversation, maybe had a firm handshake, seal it,
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes. But, definitely much more of an uplifting sort of note than what we were working off of when we talked Tuesday. But, yeah, Jalen Lars-Woodby has also entered – well, I shouldn't say also because Webb has not entered the portal. Woodby has entered the portal. He's going to go in as a grad transfer. So that's good for him. I mean, he's going to graduate, which is obviously goal number one. But, yeah, Norvell had a lot of good things to say about him. Talked about him, I think, being a great Seminole and was one of the guys that, was doing well in the classroom and things like that. So I don't think that one's all that surprising. Ira, I think, even told us, should have probably brought up on a show earlier, but that he had heard that was probably happening. It just kind of makes sense. Obviously, he hasn't really found any kind of home here, at least on the football field. And, why wait around for another maybe defensive coordinator or, what have you. So I have no ill will or animosity towards Jalen Lars-Woodby. I hope people don't. I haven't seen anything bad on the boards or Twitter, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody would hold any ill will towards them. Also don't know that Florida State fans are that bummed about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you're losing a prize piece of the puzzle. And no offense to him, because he seems like a really good person, a great student, and could do some wonderful things and could still be a great ambassador for Florida State no matter where he ends up. If he ends up being a U.S. Senator in 30 years, that people will be proud that he's a former Florida State grad. It might be the president, like Willie said he had a chance to be. But on the football field, you don't feel like you're losing a ton. He had never really found a niche at Florida State, or a niche, depending on how you want to pronounce that bad boy. I go with niche.
So do I.
I know. Okay, but a lot of people really go with niche.
Yeah. Weird.
I just don't feel comfortable saying niche. It doesn't seem right coming out of my mouth right now. But so he's not a big loss. And then also Andrew Baselli entered the transfer portal. He's not a big loss. What you wonder though is, by gosh, how many people do they have left to play? Like, if you count up the guys that are opted out or moving on, have been kicked off the team, or are injured, I mean, you got to be looking at 65, maybe 63 scholarship players.
Yeah. And
that's not knowing, like, is Jarian Jones healthy? You name someone. There's other people Green. Are they healthy? Like, it's crazy the amount of people that are no longer on this team, at least for right now. But again, I think the news of the day to me, and we'll see what we're saying in January. Because I thought LaDamian Webb leaving after you had made him the feature back, he had some success. He was one of your guys, that your offense is for playmakers. He's one of them. That if he was going to leave after whatever it was, 5-6 months on campus, 4 months on campus, that would have not have been a great sign. All the other ones are completely understandable. Jalen Lars-Woodby is from California. He came 3,000 miles to go to win 11 games in 3 years and be injured for one of them and not really make an impact at all. I get why you'd want to go somewhere else. Obviously, you understand why Baselli would want to go somewhere else. He's got one more year left, and he's not going to be playing ahead of Maurice Smith. So it makes sense for him to leave. But the Webb one is the one that I thought was the real concerning one, but apparently it's okay.
Yeah.
But I did get an email, or I got a text from the ex-wife, who was legitimately wondering, like I think a lot of people might, like, what is the deal with all the people leaving? Why are they leaving? And I'm like, look, it's part of it is an unprecedented season, and I know we're all in a vacuum, but look around the country. Florida State is not alone in players deciding they don't want to play anymore after December. And I thought Norvell brought up a good point that I hadn't really thought about. Usually at this point of the season, the season's over. And this is when you look for other opportunities if you're going to transfer. So I think he was trying to make it not an excuse for Jaden, but explain look, he's not necessarily quitting on his team. Everything is expedited because, the new school year starts in January. And is he going to be playing a football game with a team he knows he's going to leave 5 days before Christmas? You got to get on and get moving to your next stop, which is why Asante, the same thing with Asante. The combine's coming up in a couple months. You don't want to be playing. If it was a bowl game, we wouldn't expect Asante probably to play in a bowl game, right?
No.
So that's how you treat a regular season game on December 19th. You wouldn't expect Jaden Lars Woodby, who knew he was going to transfer, to be playing in a bowl game because, let's say Florida State had eked out a 6-6 season. Well, they're playing on a December 22nd bowl anyway. So this isn't really much different than a lower tier bowl game. And you just wouldn't expect your big time players to play in that game. So they're moving on. Some of them are opting out. Some of them are moving on to the NFL. Some are moving on to other schools. But the timing isn't as crazy as it normally would be with 2 games left in the season. Before Thanksgiving, that would be a little more odd than deciding I don't want to play on December 19th against Wake Forest.
Yeah, I thought he used that when he was talking about Asante, which made sense. I thought,
Jaden too, though, right? You want to explore your options.
Yeah, I guess it almost really makes more sense, honestly, for Jaden than it does. At least when we talk about the calendar, it makes more sense, I think, for Jaden than it does for Asante. But he also obviously understood what Asante's decision was, and said it was an honor to coach him and see the growth that he made. So. It sounds like, he was very forthright and forthcoming and open about the personnel moves, as he calls them, at the top of his press conference on Wednesday. Only if we get him to talk like that about injuries, that'd be pretty cool. But, one foot in front of the other. We're going to be dropping a roundtable here on Warchant, I think, in the next day or so. So I guess, I don't know if there's maybe we kind of talked about it right there, but I don't want to spill the beans on all the questions that we discussed over that roundtable, but that ultimately is probably one that, we kind of just did touch on. I'm not concerned about the players leaving, although, I'm not so, uber dismissive of everybody. I don't think, Andrew Baselli was in the plans of this team going forward, but he's, a capable, he's a capable offensive lineman at a position that, you sort of do need some bodies. My concern is, to what you kind of started this whole off with is just what numbers are you at right now? And I know they were at 44 for the Virginia game, but obviously some of those were injuries. But man, are they going to even be able to hit 85? And I know not a lot of teams are at 85. Several teams go into a year at, they go into the off season at 81 or so, and then they start giving some walk-ons, some scholarships. But I do wonder, with you being capped at 25. If they end the season, because there's going to be more guys, I imagine, that are going to leave. Although I don't know, maybe this is it. Maybe the purge or whatever you want to call it's happening now because of the way the calendar falls. But I'm sure there's got to be at least a handful of guys that are going to finish out the string here in the next 2 games that they're played, and then figure out what they're going to do. I
wrote about that. Yeah, I wrote about that a couple of days ago about why I thought it was such a good. It was such a positive that they were going to get to play these 2 games, because I'm of the opinion the guys you see on the sidelines for Duke and then the guys you see on the sidelines for Wake, assuming that actually happens, I think 95% of those guys, they're coming back. Yeah. If they had any other ideas of not wanting to, unless they just got to put something on film for a possible transfer, I think that's the guys that you see on the sideline and on the field for those 2 games. I think the guys that are still left, it's going to be your junction boys, baby. They're going to always remember Winston-Salem right around Christmas, flying in and seeing all the beautiful Christmas lights of downtown Winston-Salem. By the way, the home of Krispy Kreme donuts, I think.
Really?
Winston-Salem. I might have just made that up.
I'll look it up. I will look it up.
I'm pretty sure that's true. But yeah, so I think that's your core. These guys are your core. And then, you can sign 25 players, but they're going to, again, we know the logistics. We know the reality. They're going to have to hit the transfer portal hard. as I follow that website, that whatever it's called, what is it, Rivals.com transfer portal? I don't know.
I think it's Rivals Portal is the Twitter handle.
But it's 15 to 20 a day.
Yeah.
And some of them are, have big numbers. A lot were like guys that couldn't play at Kent State or Buffalo, but some of them aren't. So there are going to be players out there, and they're going to get a chance, it would seem, to replenish this roster with upwards of 30 new guys. That's more than a third of the team. So, hopefully they get some guys that can play, Aslan. Hopefully they get some guys that can play, buddy.
Yeah, I need to get some clarity on that. I'm going to ask my buddy who works at a program that knows the ins and outs of these things, because I do think, like, if you get early enrollees, they won't if you get early enrollees, they won't count towards your 2021 number. It'll count towards your previous class 2020. But I'm like 99% sure they had 25 guys last year. So, like, sometimes you can have more than 25, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, though, but they also got Devontae Love-Taylor, Miko Dotson, Jarian Jones, Fabian Lovett. So they brought in more than 25 guys total. And think about Miami. How many guys did they sign last year? Half their starters are transfers.
Yeah, I need to get clarity on that. But, yeah, that's kind of, I guess the yin and the yang, the push and the pull of how this is all going to work out. But more importantly, Krispy Kreme Donuts was actually founded by a gentleman named Vernon Rudolph in what is now the historic Old Salem in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They're still there. Headquarters, Winston-Salem. Look at you. Look at you, Corey Clark. Let's go.
Is there do we know why he spells them with K's?
I should have probably kept going down and finding that out. But,
I just want to make sure there's no, I don't think I've never heard anything like that. And I love a great Krispy Kreme donut. But it is the South. It sounds like that was a long time ago. I just want to make sure I'm not, talking glowingly of you know what I mean? That's all.
Right. Like we want to make sure that let's see here. Yeah, no, there's no kind of interesting nothing I've been able to find.
Okay, all right. And what was his name?
Vernon Rudolph. I think I clicked off the page.
So that's all right. That's fair.
Yeah, Vernon Rudolph.
But anyway, folks, look at what you learn. I mean, there's just a wealth of information. That you'll be playing trivia back when everybody's allowed to play bar trivia again. That's going to come up at some point. What famous fast food? I guess you'd call Krispy Kreme fast food. Yeah. Where was it? What famous fast food was originated in Winston-Salem? And now you know. Yeah. Now you know. And we know where Zaxby's was originated, don't we, buddy?
That's right. That is right, man. Georgia.
Statesboro, Georgia.
Yeah, even more accurately. I think maybe even the bigger news of the day, I one-up you on the talk of LaDamian Webb's hopeful return, is speaking to Jordan Travis and him saying that he feels amazing, or I guess it feels amazing to be 100%. So how quickly we forget, and I include myself in this, and some people might confuse this explanation as an excuse, which is great. At what point, hey, Aslan, how come you didn't play football? And then I tell you, well, I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't big enough. Is that an excuse or is that an explanation? I digress.
What do you mean?
Well, just because anytime that we try to talk on any program that we do, whether it's this or a round table or Langston's recruiting show, it's just, here come the excuses about, why this team is underperforming or what have you. And it's like, well, what I just said is not necessarily like an excuse. I mean, I think there's it's an explanation. It's I don't know. There's a difference between the two, right? Like an excuse for me to not come to a Christmas party. I come up with some lie, but I really don't want to come hang out with you. That's an excuse for me to duck out of a Christmas party.
It sounds negative. It sounds nefarious. I had an excuse. He made up an excuse. But look, if you don't go to a Christmas party because you have the flu, you can say, look, I had the flu. That's my excuse. It's a good one. But it's also, it's still an excuse. You can still, you are excused. They don't call it an explained absence.
Do you have
a
doctor's excuse?
Absence.
It's never like you have a doctor's explanation. You have a doctor's excuse.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. So, and I thought it was interesting that he said what he said about it feels that his offseason is going to be spent on getting bigger.
Yes.
Because obviously his body has not worn this well. And it needs to. So that was interesting. And then your part of me is like, okay, well, how does that affect you? Like, how is that going to affect your ability as a quarterback? If you you can put on like 11 pounds of muscle maybe, but you don't want to put on 26 pounds of muscle because then you become a completely different guy and you're not as effective, in my opinion. I don't know how,
I'm more concerned about if he were to put 15, 20 pounds on, less about his elusiveness, but more about like the wear and tear he's going to put on his joints, because his body might not be built to carry 216 pounds.
Right.
I don't know let me look what he's listed at right now on the on the depth chart. He's listed at 200, and that might even be a little bit generous.
Yeah, so maybe I think you can get to 210 and still keep what you need to keep. But I mean, look, I don't know. Is 10 pounds going to make a difference if somebody falls on your shoulder?
And the thing
I don't know.
I'm not trying to sound like the tough guy here. Like, I have not cringed at anything that he's endured. I haven't been like, oh gosh, that hurt. Like it hasn't been pleasant. I'm not like, oh, I would take that lovingly. But like this whole thing about he needs to preserve his body and learn how to get out of bounds and slide. He hasn't been reckless. I don't think he has been.
Remember he was hurt. He was hurt against Pitt on a pass.
Yeah.
The guy blindsided him from behind when he was rolling out. I mean, that's like Jimbo said, and I brought it up. That's where a lot of those injuries happen. Most of them. I don't think he's been reckless either. I think he's gotten out of bounds when he needs to, for the most part. Maybe early on he was wearing a few that he probably couldn't, but he also, like, was it the Jacksonville State game where he like bowled over someone to get the first down? Like on a 4th and 1 early when it was still, that game was still in doubt. Like sometimes he had to use his body, and that's what makes him him. So, but yeah, I thought it was, him talking about feeling healthy was a good sign. I do want to see what that looks like, because I think we forget. We kind of forget what the Notre Dame game was. And again, I know they lost.
The North
Carolina too in the first half. But those weren't normal. Those weren't just pedestrian, okay, we got a mobile quarterback here. Those were electric mobile quarterback runs there. That is a difference maker. But if he can't stay healthy, it does not matter. So I get why that would be a huge part of his offseason. It's also a good test these final 2 games. I don't know that he's gone through a game. I don't know if he's finished a game this season and been anywhere close to healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think so. I know he came out of the Notre Dame game with a hand thing.
Yep.
The North Carolina game, he got banged up. Obviously, Louisville, he came out. Pitt, he came out.
Yep.
Miami, he wasn't ready. Georgia Tech, he was hurt. Jacksonville State, he didn't practice all week. Like, literally,
he didn't start. I mean, that's the thing. He didn't play all 4 quarters. Or
it was
all the snaps.
It's the whole season he hasn't been healthy. This will be our first chance, presumably, to see what a real healthy Jordan Travis looks like, and can he stay that way for 2 consecutive games? Because if he can, then okay, maybe it's possible. That's something to feel good about going into next season, along with our man LaDamian Webb coming back.
Yeah, that was, I just was trying to go on a spin here about it, but just when they played Duke, it's going to be close to 2 months since they beat North Carolina. That game was October 17th. The Duke game, hopefully, if it's played, would be December 12th. And yeah, I mean, he didn't have, Terry wasn't there in that game. They did have LaDamian Webb, and I think LaDamian had a pretty good game. But who knows? Maybe Lawrence Toafili can fill the void. But yeah, I think it's just so important. It's so crucial to get these games played, obviously, both of them, hopefully. But especially if you can get Jordan Travis, if he can be healthy going to a game, he says he feels amazing, he's 100%, and maybe learn some lessons. And the feels like a month since he's last played, really. He has. Pitt game was November 7th, so yeah, it's going to be more than a month since
it'll be
played.
35 days. Yeah, it'll be 35 days. Right at 5 weeks since he's played a game, and literally we don't know that he's been healthy the entire time.
Yeah,
he just hasn't. So he's had 5. This is like a bowl game. So I want to see what that looks like. Also thought I know people roll their eyes at it. I kind of do too, but. The way Norvell and Travis both talked about the practice on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
But like Wednesday especially, and I wrote about that too on Wednesday about everybody was concentrating on Clemson and Virginia, and them having to come, them being told on a Saturday that they didn't get to play, them having to do all that travel and then come and be told they didn't play. Well, the Florida State players felt the same way. Like they were really, Travis even said it sucks.
Yeah.
Like you prepare all week, you practice all week, you wake up the day of the game and you're told, nope, you're not playing. It sucks for the Florida State players too. And I thought that was, the fact that they still get to play games. And Travis said, that practice on Wednesday when they found out the day after finding out that who would they be playing and that they actually had 2 more games. He said it was special. Like it was a special practice. The energy, the excitement. And there will be some. I don't think it's anything that's going to lead to an incredible finish to the season. Like they're not going to beat Duke and Wake Forest 100-6, but I do think that hopefully maybe it could be something that you look back upon as a building block. Like remember when we only had 58 guys left because everybody else was home for the holidays and they had opted out or they were going to a new school, and we rallied around each other and played well and played hard. That's something to build on. And, because it's them. It's only them that's left. And so maybe they can take some pride in that. Take some pride in being the last guy standing at Florida State and not the guys that everybody was talking about at the beginning of the season and go out there and play well. That would be something to build on.
Yeah, I feel weird. The romanticism of football is so dead to me just because I have to cover this. This is my job. I mean, I'm not journalist with a capital J, but I do want to be objective. I don't want to be a complete homer. But I'm honest. I'm true to myself, man. Like I'm really none of this is people think this is like a Aslan is contrarian shtick's getting old. It's not. I assure you. If I was hosting this show in 2012, I probably would have been pretty skeptical. I probably would have been pretty skeptical in 2013 until they went and castrated Clemson. But I would have came around and I would have been all in. It would have been amazing.
That's what it would have taken.
Yeah, hey, now the Maryland game. I mean, that Maryland game, I was nervous about it. I really was, Corey. I'm not mocking you. I was like, hey,
okay,
relax.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
It was like Nevada they played, and they played like Nevada.
They just played Boston College and given up like 30 points and kept getting beaten on wheel routes and throwbacks, and the defense did not look good at all.
No.
And you're like, okay, the offense is great, Jameis is incredible, but this defense is kind of barely above average. And then that was completely wrong. That defense was really, really good.
Yeah.
As Maryland found out on that fateful Saturday.
Yeah. What was the box score? What was the final score on that one?
It was 63-0.
Nice. Really? They got a spiked baseball on that one?
Yeah, 63-0.
Let's go. Oh, the good old
It was
days.
the biggest win in Jimbo brought this up on that Brian McFadden podcast I was talking about. It's still the biggest win over an AP ranked team in NCAA history, I believe. Because Maryland was ranked. They were like 24th in the country.
Yeah, they were.
Take that, Stephon Diggs. How'd that taste?
But yeah,
kicked them out of the conference with style.
There's so many people that are trying to fight the good fight on Warchant and trying to stay optimistic and positive despite some of the more mounting negative things, and I kind of roll my eyes at some of it. But I roll my eyes. I don't hop in threads and try to bring people's days down. But it's hard for me to get into this whole I trust Norvell, give him time. Again, I'm not saying it's over, it's never going to happen, but I'm not in this whole I'm going to give you a blank check all the time in the world. I do kind of want to be a little bit even-handed with things. But yeah, I do want to believe that they have taken an inordinate amount of unfair criticism for the way the Clemson game was handled. And I'm not as sympathetic to the way they handled the Virginia game, but I understand that. But the Clemson game, I think they totally got served a raw deal. Some people think that they even took a shot from Herbie during the college football playoff show on Tuesday. But yeah, I would like to think that this team, and I said this in the roundtable thing, this is the healthiest as a coach. This is the healthiest you'll ever have a football team in the month of November playing a football game. And they took an inordinate amount of criticism from every corner of college football, Twitter sphere, fan bases, anything. I think we should be able to see a little bit of what this staff is made of, what their message is, if it really is resonating with these kids, with the way they're going to play. I don't want to come here and be like, well, you know what, I was totally wrong about that. They're screwed if they lose to Duke. I'm not going to be happy about it. But, yeah, I think part of me, these are the things, Corey, that I can kind of rally around early on in struggles. I can still believe a little about this. I wasn't totally off the Taggart train like in November of 2018 when they lost to Florida. That just took my soul out of me. But yeah, I would like to think that guys like Amari Gaynor, guys like Jordan Travis. I mean, Jordan talked about that everybody just wants the opportunity to get better and show just how hard they've been working. So I would like to. We're not going to see anything completely different, man. I get it, but I do want to see a competitive team. I want to see this offense. I know everybody was focused on the defense. I'm so resignated to what they've become. Let's just see this offense again. Let's see an offense that put 31 points up against the number 5 team in the nation 2 months ago. Let's see something close to that, man. I mean, I think that's fair. I don't know. Maybe I'm being totally irrational. I think it's fair. Although they don't have Devontae Love Taylor, which is a big bummer, or LaDamian Webb. But come on, Warren Thompson.
And Terry.
Well, they didn't have Terry either against North Carolina.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't. Again, I think we can't. What would be the point of getting hung up on wins and losses right now? It would be nice for them to have a win going into next season.
Win a game. No, they got to win though. They got to win. They got to beat Duke.
Look, 3-8, 2-9. Okay, what is it? 2-8, or what would it be? 2-8, 3-7. It's still a horrific season, by any Florida State measure. I just don't want to see capitulation. I want to see a team that plays hard, that just does what it's supposed to. If you get out-athleted, well, heavens to Betsy, I can't say that about Duke and Wake Forest. I can't even finish that sentence. But if you just look and play as hard as you did against Carolina, whether you win or lose, because you don't have LaDamian Webb, you don't have your best lineman, you don't have Marvin Wilson, Corey Durden, Asante Samuel. Like, the team is different. But if you just play hard, that's something to build on for next year. And I know that's a throw your hands up, but even if they beat Duke 40-26 and then lose to Wake, which is a possibility, maybe a probability.
Yeah.
I don't know that it changes much, the results, as much as what it looks like. Do they give you any sort of belief that this is a group of 50 or 60 players, 50 players, I guess, that will come back and bust their butts for the next 9 months, along with the additions, and be a better team? Will they look better than they did against? Well, it's even hard to say that, man. It's such a goofy season. I don't know, man.
I was
going to say, would they look better than they did against Georgia Tech?
Yeah.
Well, they're a completely different roster than they were against Georgia Tech. Yeah. What would they have looked like without Asante Samuel against Georgia Tech?
Yeah, shoot.
So it's hard. It's just hard. It's hard, and it's a bummer. And I'm not, it's not excuse making. It's just the reality of the situation. This is what we're trying to deal with, is how to judge a year like this. And it's very hard, other than we know it's been terrible. But, again, I think December of next year is when we'll have a much better handle on the buy-in of this team towards Mike Norvell and a shift in what needs to be shifted. I think that's December of next year.
I'll say October next year. That's what my boy Scott Satterfield told us at ACC kickoff last year. It's like, year and a half mark, you kind of know what you got with your
team. But this is in a normal first year.
Whatever, man.
Still
time spent around each other. Although that's I do wonder, I mean, to your point, to counter it, I don't know if it's like a chicken egg thing here, but like the way you play these next 2 games, I think will dictate how much buy-in you can get from those 50 or so guys that return in the spring. And man, just and listen, winning a game in December your first year is not going to affect whether or not, nothing Jimbo did in 2010, even beating the Gators the way he did, led to them being national champions 3 years later. But like this fan base right now needs something to feel good about. I know we're talking about basketball, and for a good amount of people that is something to feel good about. But man, can you imagine like going to this offseason having lost? I think that would be
5 in a row.
5 in a row, not having won a game since like mid-October.
5 in a row, and the losses would have been to Louisville, Pitt, NC State, Duke, and Wake.
Yeah, I mean, let's.
No, I get that. Like I think a win could be good for the morale of the players.
Absolutely.
I just don't know if it makes a ton of difference in September of 2021. But I get it. Just for the value of feeling good about yourself. It's better than losing. Sure.
Just, I don't know, be able to actually send an email. I don't know what they can. I mean, I think they can still talk to recruits. At least be like, hey man, like we won a game. I mean, how hard is it going to be to recruit?
Did you see that? Did you see what we did to Duke? See what we did to Dead Fish Cutcliffe?
Well, just
We
hey,
roasted
we're
them.
playmakers. We're offensive playmakers. Look at what we put
Right.
up on Huddle. That's what we can do with you. Something like that.
That's right.
As opposed to showing them Betamax 8mm film of your win against North Carolina from 5 months previous.
You could always, some kids don't pay attention that much to college football. You could always just splice in some 13 and 14 and be like, look what we did. They might even know. They might not know. Some kids don't. Some kids are good at sports, but they're not sports fans. They don't know if Florida State's having a good year or not.
Like, whoa, man, that 5. He's got some zip on it. He's going to be throwing me the ball.
Is 80 coming back? That receiver, he looks pretty good. Guy, I can learn some things from him. Oh yeah, he's just a sophomore. Yeah, and then just see when they get. Then tell them, oh man, he transferred. They won't know. Some guys just don't keep up. So that maybe that's your chance. But I think I'm glad they get to play 2 games.
Yeah,
it would have been. And I think the biggest thing is seeing what Jordan Travis looks like. Give him as many reps as possible. This is not a kid that's had a ton of them. And see if he can stay healthy and see if he can progress from snap 1 against Duke to snap 120 against Wake. Like what that looks like with 2. Hopefully, you hope, fingers crossed, that he gets 2 healthy weeks and what that offense looks like with him healthy. But, that's a big if.
It is. But what's not a big if is whether or not we're going to have a show tomorrow. Well, we will. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's going to actually be a Renegade Express edition of the program, too. So if you haven't posed your questions, get on over to the Tribal Council, warchant.com, and leave your questions. We'll discuss it on the show. That's what we do. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good.